Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Cloud ERP. This special edition podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Let's Talk Data podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Frank McGrory. For the pod today, we're going to pick up where we left off with Bill Piotrowski and Chris Perry from IBM's SAP practice. We're going to hear more about what IBM is experiencing with their SAP S/4HANA transformation journey and how they've embraced their partner ecosystem to accelerate their timeline for success and growth. When we last spoke, I had just posed the following question. How has IBM's rapid discovery methodology supported the success of this program?
Yeah, so Jen, back in 2021, we were looking at, again, how are we going to become the best hybrid cloud and AI partner for our clients? And so the first thing we did is we said, we really need to look at our current capabilities. And so the IBM company looked to IBM Consulting, and IBM Consulting back in 2018 created an industrialized methodology for really for that upfront shaping a case for change for a client that we call rapid discovery.
Okay.
And in the case of the IBM company transformation, we did the following. First off, this discovery, we call it rapid because, you know, in this case, we did it in 14 weeks. We engaged about 50 executives or so, and we engaged a good-sized team, but not a huge team, about 125 total participants across almost 130 workshops during that time period. And we looked at our current processes and capabilities, especially around lead to cash and around record to report. We wanted to make sure that we identified a North Star vision that those 50 executives would say, hey, if we enable capabilities around these business process areas, then that will give us the value, that will give us the capabilities, that'll give us an ability to move faster, and it will in turn allow us to realize the productivity and efficiency benefits that I mentioned before as it relates to our passion around AI being that productivity unleash. We did that piece of work in the fourth quarter time period of 2021. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the following year, we had basically scoped out what our project needed to look like and how we were going to run. And we agreed at that time that we were going to move forward with really this 18-month journey. So the rapid discovery really allowed us to align those executives on our priorities, as well as on an execution roadmap that would then enable those priorities, enable the capabilities that we needed to have in place to achieve those priorities. And then in early 2023, we actually launched the project. And when we talk about the 18 months, it was that January 23 to the go live in mid-July of 2024 that represented really that 18-month journey that Chris mentioned, which is really this whole hybrid transformation, selective data migration, working together with our ecosystem partners such as S&P around what S&P calls their Bluefield migration. We call it a rapid move migration. It's rapid for the reasons we mentioned. And right. And then with other partners like SmartShift around automating the HANAtization of some of the custom code that we decided we needed to move over, and working with other partners like Tricentis on testing. So yeah, this was certainly a transformation that started with business capabilities and ended with, hey, we're going to use the best that these ecosystem partners have to bear, and right. All project managed and led by IBM Consulting on behalf of the IBM company as our client.
Awesome. I love me some methods and tools. That was one of my jobs over my last couple of decades here at SAP. So warms my heart to hear all this goodness. But before we jump off to another topic, I would love to hear from Chris and talking about, you mentioned S&P and and Crystal Bridge and the Bluefield approach with transformation. There's a lot of great magic that happens behind the processes and tools. So I'm going to let Chris have a minute and chat about that.
About 5-6 years ago, we started trying to envision a better way to do S4 upgrades. If you think back, 5 years ago when you said you got to upgrade from your current ECC environment to S4, we started off with Brownfield, which might be quick and fast, but doesn't offer a lot of benefits. And then we had the Greenfield, which that was a daunting task to essentially rebuild your entire ERP system based on new S4 capabilities. And we just felt like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's where we get this, keep the best, transform the rest, is from that need to be able to make these implementations much faster. When we first started with the IBM implementation and working with our internal IT or CIO department, they were estimating it's going to take them 3 years to do this upgrade. Just alone to understand the number of objects and the the remediation of that code, just to get an estimate of what it was going to take to do that work. They said they needed 6 months to do that work. So if that's going to take 6 months, there's really no way you're going to finish this project in 18 months. So we started working with other companies. One of them being Crystal Bridge. And basically they presented us a capability where we could take a copy of, any of your environments, your production environment, your QA environment, your dev environment, and we could take that copy and pull that out as a copy, but without any transaction or master data in it. And once you have that copy of your production environment or any other path to production environment, where you have no transaction and master data, the whole organizational structure in that system is free to change. So you can delete company codes, you can add company codes, you can change your profit center structure. There's all kinds of different capabilities. You can delete a lot of business add-ins that maybe were added that you're not going to use anymore because of new capabilities in S4. All different changes to the environment that kind of create that North Star view of what you want to do. That's
what you did using the Crystal Bridge?
Yeah, so that's what we did. We used S&P's Crystal Bridge tool to do that, to create a copy of our, I'm going to keep it simple to production environment, but you can start with anyone. We created that copy. Once we had that copy, there's no data in that environment. So when it comes to upgrading in that environment, you're able to upgrade it so much faster because you're not dealing with any of the data errors that you're typically dealing with in an S4 upgrade. Speed is key to being able to make these projects successful, because we were able to upgrade that, put in our North Star architecture, establish that as our golden client. That a lot of companies use that terminology of a golden client, and then copy that golden client and create our first dev environment with whatever data we wanted: production data, QA data, dev data. In our circumstance, we wanted a dev environment, so we took all of our dev data and put it into that environment. So within 3 months, we had an S4 version of our development environment fully loaded with the same dev data that was in our ECC environment. We repeated that process of taking that golden client then, and about every 6 weeks, we went through that process again, sometimes building, the next environment was a sandbox, and then the next time we did it, we built a QA environment. Across 12 different times, we executed this data migration into separate environments. It's kind of like a baseball player. The repetitive activity of constantly repeating that data migration, simulating a cutover, doing integration testing to simulate the production processes that you're going to do, created this muscle memory in the team and the business resources that were validating the data, so that by the time we got to production and actual go live, we had not only the muscle memory to make this go as quickly as possible over that cutover weekend, we also had confidence that we would be successful in doing this because we had repeated it so many times. So 18 months sounds like a very short time. timeline. But when you talk about 12 different data migrations, sometimes full migrations, sometimes partial migrations, but at least 8 of those being full migrations, that kind of repetitiveness is what makes this process so successful and removes so much of the risk involved in it. So that was a tool that S&P brought to us that we use, but it's one of the solutions one of the partners where we have teamed up in the past with to make these projects much faster in their delivery.
So Chris, this truly takes a village to get this program to a successful go live in the time frame that you did. I know that we've talked about different partners. Can you just touch upon some key partners that you did leverage and the values that these partner alliances contributed to the success of your transformation for
Absolutely.
what's happened, and then what's going to happen in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I'm gonna put Bill on the spot a little bit here. Bill, why don't you tell us about our relationship and partnership with SAP and some of the recent developments with IBM Cloud and SAP?
Thanks, Chris. This is always a team effort across the ecosystem partners, and you've heard us talk about this a couple times. At IBM, the old IBM was all about IBM Tech, and the new IBM is all about bringing the best that each individual ecosystem partner brings to a transformation like this, with us kind of providing the overall leadership and integration across those partners. As it relates to SAP, SAP is our largest and most important of all of our ecosystem partners. This S/4HANA migration was a migration onto RISE, and it's on RISE, and it's also on the IBM Power VS Cloud. What that basically means is we moved the 14 terabyte solution. We left data behind, as Chris mentioned. It's now about 3 terabytes. And we moved it from an on-prem Power solution to onto S/4HANA on RISE on IBM Power. And this is even more exciting because just last month, the IBM Power VS Cloud was announced as an official RISE hyperscaler by SAP. And that means that for clients that, especially those clients that are running their SAP workloads on-prem on IBM Power, those are clients that I think will see the IBM Power VS cloud migration option as a very good option. For other clients that are moving from on-prem to cloud, we have found that S/4HANA runs lightning fast on IBM Power VS, and it's incredibly reliable, a little more reliable than some of the x86 options that are out there. And then, of course, also with SAP on this project and really all of our projects with our commercial clients, we had max attention and the whole active attention services just to make sure that our clients were getting kind of the speediest and most comprehensive turnaround from both SAP, IBM, and across these ecosystem partners that we work with. So, Chris, it's just been a great, collaboration result here with SAP.
I'd just add to that, we used IBM Cloud Power 10 systems as part of this project with RISE with SAP, and I think it was very critical as part of the success to our project. Now, when we talk about migrating data from ECC to S4, in those 10, 11, 12 migrations that we did, we were migrating at the go live, we were migrating those 6 terabytes of data, which ended up being less once it got compressed in S4, but coming out of ECC, 6 terabytes of data that was migrated in 36 hours, which was phenomenal when you think about if you were to take traditional ways and traditional hardware to migrate 6 terabytes of data, there's no way you could do that in a 36-hour time frame. It's just far too long. So that's due to the hardware using Power 10 systems and upcoming Power 11 systems, but also due to the use of the Crystal Bridge tool and the unique way in which it loads data. But besides S&P, we also use some other IBM tools like Watson X for AI and things like that. That's already built in as part of your Joule solution. But above and beyond what comes with Joule through Watson X built into Joule, We also use those capabilities to deliver the project. So we're able to read project documentation, and reading that project documentation through the learning process of AI, have AI then generate test scripts for us and things like that. So not only just in business processes, but we use AI quite a bit as part of our project delivery. When we talk about SmartShift, this is an amazing company. We had over 30,000 custom objects. That was about 5 million lines of code. I told you that the IT department thought it would take them 6 months just to figure out what that was. They didn't actually tell us it was the 30 objects and 5 million lines of code. That was actually told to us by SmartShift 6 weeks after they got engaged. So that 6 months that they were going to take, SmartShift did that work in 6 weeks.
That's awesome.
It was crazy. Over the next 12 weeks, they mitigated that code, HANAtized it, is what I like to say. 94% of all of our custom objects were automated through that remediation. Now it's not free, right? But when you compare the amount of time that you would have spent trying to do that as a SAP department, an IT department, an SI, without using this level of automation, you're going to spend so much more not using some of these great vendors. And then
I love it.
Yeah, and then we continue to use SmartShift going forward as we go through our clean core journey, because they're looking at code and saying, this code might be better off in BTP. And so they will take our ECC code, transform it so that it'll work in BTP, and it almost becomes, seamless from the development side of that code. So S&P and SmartShift are two vendors that we have built strong relationships with, where we've integrated them into our delivery and created seamless delivery through the products that we deliver. Making it look as though it's all coming from IBM. Besides that, you have Tricentis. They're a great testing tool going forward. We not only use their tools for SAP testing, but we were able to test, legacy applications as well, because it's not just an SAP testing tool. It's able to test, the SAP process and the downstream process or the upstream process coming in or out of SAP as well. So these are relationships that we built over the years as we built out this new methodology, which truly add value and speed to the implementation of these S4 upgrades.
Love the partner alliance and the contributions that they've all made to success in your transformation. That's amazing. So gentlemen, it takes significant risk and investment to initiate and carry out a cloud transformation that you have embarked on at IBM. So hats off to one and all who have had their hand in the transformation to date and going forward. But, I always love to ask this question. What advice would you give to a customer to ensure that they can maximize their return on investment? And also, just as a friend, what are the things that you would say, if you were sitting down with a cup of coffee or a beverage of your choice and back of the napkin kind of thing? What are the lessons that you learned that you don't wish on anybody to have that experience going forward?
Jen, it's a really important question, and I'll start by saying, look, there's no silver bullet here, but what I would say is the first thing is you've got to build the alignment around where you're headed. So that so-called North Star. What that does is that mitigates against the risk of your enterprise transformation turning into an IT project. This must be a project that delivers business value to the members of your C-suite. Second is when you get into the execution, don't underestimate the importance of that execution, rigor, and discipline. Jen, you were talking about how much you love methods and tools. Mm-hmm. So, what do I mean by rigor and discipline? One is you've got to plan the work and then work the plan. You have to have a model, a delivery model, an execution model that's focused on the work that has to be done. You heard Chris talk about the fact that through iterations and through repetition, we were able to mitigate risk. I mean, we were moving the entire organization over on that go live in mid-July as a big bang. which is not for the faint of heart. So
no, it's not.
We had to make sure that the data was clean. We had to make sure that end-to-end business processes were working properly and fully integrated, just like they were before. We had to make sure that all of the one-time cutover activities and upgrade activities, that they were fitting into the window that the business could afford to be down. So the method that we follow on these rapid move programs, or these, what SAP calls these Bluefield projects, is we have repetitive mock data loads, making sure that the data is complete, that it's accurate, that it's working now in the new platform, working now in S4. We have thousands of tests that we run and execute, both by the project team and then by the business. We do multiple mock cutovers and full dress rehearsals where we're literally timing out all the activities, sequencing the activities, making sure that the handoffs are clear during cutover. We're even staying in the same hotels that we're going to stay in for production cutover. We're running the same status meetings that we'd run when we do this live in production, so that it is a repetitive and consistent and reliable outcome. And then along the way, we're managing scope. So yes, we've got an element of transformation. We've got an element of innovation. Remember, we're laying the data foundation, those foundational bricks of the foundation, so that we can activate AI. And by sticking with that North Star vision around not only what we're going to do in this step of the roadmap, but also where we're headed in the end state as it relates to unleashing productivity, we're able to scope manage, meet our timelines, knowing that by having that governance and execution rigor means that we're going to be able to more quickly get to the stage which is where we are now, where we're actually activating the AI and the additional innovations on that S/4HANA base foundational capability.
Amazing. Wow, I've learned so much today from both of you. So thank you both for joining me today. My favorite is keep the best, transform the rest. My second favorite line of the day was HANAtized through SmartShift. I think that was there. And I love the organization's appetite for change and what you've explained and characterized. So awesome work. I look forward to following this story, and I hope we can come together again, maybe in another year, 18 months, to see where you are in the journey. Will you join me back here at the pod?
Absolutely, Jen. Thanks for the dialogue today.
Yeah, so fun. Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Let's Talk Cloud ERP. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to continue in a smaller, more interactive session, I would like to invite you to sign up for a value exploration workshop. This 2.5-hour interactive call to action session, curated for both IT and business leaders, will enable you to interact directly with SAP S/4HANA through our SAP S/4HANA ERP simulation game. The simulation game will demonstrate how you can have greater control of your business processes by having members of your team from across business functions such as finance, sales, marketing, and procurement work together to showcase the true power of SAP S/4HANA. The really cool thing about this game is you get the chance to compete and show your team's full profitability potential against other teams. Check out the show notes to learn more about the Value Exploration Workshop and upcoming dates. Finally, I would like to thank the Let's Talk Data podcast for their partnership. We couldn't do what we do without them. Until next time, I am Jennifer Frank McGrory. Have a great rest of your day.